highly spiritual.
You must believe in the African dream. Do invest in the Ghanaian dream. My people don't believe the lie. Our arms are open wide. This land is greener, way greener on this side. My people don't believe the lie. Our arms are open wide. This land is greener, way greener on this side. This is the year of return. Where's our Lord? Akwaba Yiko. You are welcome home. Where's our Lord? Akwaba Yiko.
Welcome to another edition of Diaspora Weekly. This is where we engage stakeholders on policy matters affecting diasporans and our relations with other countries and everything. You're watching DNT and my name is Jermaine Nkrumah. I have with me a very special guest as usual. We bring in the best of them. But before we get to our guests, as you all know, we have to go to the jungle. The jungle. We live in a country where mostly, when you ask anybody their impression of a politician, the first word that comes to their mind is corruption. All politicians are corrupt. Well, I did some thinking, and in driving around town relating to people, I think I have a different angle, and that's why you're watching Jermaine's angle. I'm bringing you the jungle today. Listen, the politician and the citizen, who is more corrupt? Let's look at it. First, let's look at the definition of corruption. Corruption is defined as a form of dishonesty or criminal behavior, activity by people in authority. That's fine. But if you take the authority aside, dishonesty and criminal behavior, and then you look at the citizenry, we're breaking the rules everywhere we see an opportunity. If we're driving and there's a queue, we have to jump the queue. We don't want to be in a queue. If we're eating, we're throwing trash out, knowing that it's going to flood the place. It's going to block the drains and flood the place and come back, and then we turn around and blame the politician. In everything we do, if we're giving out loans, we're asking people money in return. Whatever we do in our little area of authority, we want something in return. Everything in Ghana is a quid pro quo. And so if you're doing that in your little area of authority and you want something in return rather than open your heart and doing it, what gives you the moral authority to blame the politician as the only corrupt person in our society? I want you to chew on it, and if the term corruption that you so easily tag onto politician, if it pains you that I'm tagging it onto you, then maybe you need to change your ways. And once we all change our ways, then Ghana becomes a better society. This has been The Jungle. We'll be back with Diaspora Weekly.
Every weekday at 12 and 5 p.m., DNT Newsroom brings you the most topical, fact-based, and up-to-date news from Ghana and around the world.
Politics, business, sports, and news from the diaspora, all covered in this comprehensive news update.
If it matters, DNT Newsroom will have it covered.
DNT News. Be informed.
All right, welcome to Diaspora Weekly, and my name is Jermaine Nkrumah. I have with me a special guest, Dr. Agnes Adu. Welcome.
Thank you, Jermaine.
Very good, very good. Dr. Agnes Adu is the CEO of the Ghana Trade Fair. Is it a center of authority?
Ghana Trade Fair Company.
Company,
Limited.
okay.
Yes.
And that whole area, they are passed by there all the time,
Yes,
and
yes,
it's a
yes.
vast area.
Quite vast. Quite
But
vast.
when you go into it, it's another story.
Yes,
But you
you're
know
right.
what? They said if you want someone to, if you have a big problem, you have to give it to someone who can fix it.
Amen.
So they tag you.
Yes.
They give you enormous. How are you? First, let's talk about you.
Yes, yes. Well, thanks for inviting me to the show. I'm
All right, you're
delighted to be
welcome.
here this afternoon.
So, who is Dr. Agnes Adu?
Well, first of all, I am Ghanaian.
Mm-hmm.
I'm from Esiakwa. I was born here
Okay.
in Eastern Region.
Okay.
And as most of us, or many of us, get the opportunity to do, I went to the U.S. at quite a young age.
Okay.
So though I'm Ghanaian and my core is Ghanaian, a lot of my upbringing and my schooling was done outside of Ghana.
Outside of Ghana.
Yes,
Where
and-
specifically?
Well, firstly in Brooklyn, New York. So I'm a,
Okay.
I'm a New Yorker. through
Ladies
and
and
through.
gentlemen, I'm about to leave the set right now. Of all the places, Brooklyn.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
So imagine you're preteen, 13, 12, 13,
And
14
they throw
years
you from Esiakwa.
from Esiakwa via Koforidua straight to Brooklyn.
Oh
it's
my
like
goodness.
one jungle to the
Oh
other.
my
I mean,
goodness.
it's the simplest way I can put it.
So the first
Going
time
from-
you landed.
I mean, first.
So you're one of those who went from Kotoka to JFK.
Precisely. And I'm not Accra anything. So my reference to Accra is when I started coming back home. But really, I came to hitch a ride from Accra. So I'm not even a city girl by any stretch of the imagination.
So what was it like?
And it was, you know, it was a good thing. The good thing about it is that I was too young to know that I had gone from one extreme
your life
to
had been
the other.
turned upside down.
Exactly, that my life
Right.
had been turned. I'm an offspring. My parents went to America at quite a long time ago.
Okay.
My dad went to America in 1958.
Wow.
And came back home in the 70s, got married, and then had the children. So when we went, our parents were there. So it was soft landing in a sense. But everything from language to food to mannerisms, you had to relearn all over again. And I considered myself, even at 13, that I was, a brainy kid, a smart kid. I spoke English, even though I lived in Esiakwa. But you get to Brooklyn, and the English
your
there,
English is like this.
It's like you've moved to France and
yes,
everybody's speaking French,
Absolutely.
and you don't understand.
First of all, the English they speak in Brooklyn.
Oh, it's not the same.
It's not what they speak in London.
Absolutely not. It's not where they speak anywhere. Brooklyn is Brooklyn.
Wow.
It has its personality, it has its flavors, it has its smell, scents. It's all different, and you will not experience that anywhere else. Even within New York, the larger New York, Brooklyn is Brooklyn. Brooklyn has
What's
a
the difference?
personality.
I've always wondered, from an identity standpoint, what's the difference between Brooklyn and Bronx?
You know, I say that Brooklyn is a softer version of Bronx.
Oh, really?
Yes. We Brooklynites, we think that we're a little bit more refined than the people from the Bronx.
That's scary.
That is scary. You're right. But Brooklyn, I feel it has a softer side, Brooklyn, you find a lot of the old brownstone buildings from the 1920s, and they've actually kind of restored it back to its old glory and has brought back a lot of culture in the last 10 years, 20 years, which I think the Bronx has not gone through that transition yet.
So Brooklyn, if you're listening, this is a first for me. Brooklyn is a refined Bronx.
It's a softer version of Bronx, in my opinion.
Very good. I want to piggyback on something you say. Your dad went to the United States in 1958.
Yes.
That got me thinking. That's a year after we got independence.
Precisely.
Okay, so why would anyone leave? We just got free independence, hoopla, and then you want to go to the States.
Exactly.
Did he tell you about that?
Back then, my dad is a professional, or was a professional. He passed away about 4 years ago, at the age of 85 years old. And so he lived a full life.
Okay.
But he went on a scholarship.
Okay.
So back then, you know, in Nkrumah's time, independence, Ghana was actually partnering with a lot of the European countries, even in the US, to do student exchange programs and professional exchange programs. So that's basically what took him there. And I think back there was with the intention that you go and learn something, and then you come back into your country and use it for the betterment of all of us. So that's what took him there. And then he established roots and became a New Yorker. And he liked it there. I mean, my mom, on the other hand, never forgot Ghana. You know, finally they got married in late 60s, early 70s, and had us. And then she went to America when we were babies. In 1976, my mom went to America. But for her, her soul never left here. Every year, especially when my grandmother was alive, every year my mom would take that pilgrimage back to Esiakwa. Every year when we were kids. The children that she actually had in Brooklyn, my 3 siblings behind me, she bring them to Ghana every year when they were quite young to kind of still seat in us.
That's important because I mean you were born here before you left, and you had siblings that were born there. Right?
Exactly.
Okay, so when they were coming back, it was new to them.
Precisely.
When you went there at 13, you said it was like your life was turned upside down.
It's night and day.
What was it like?
You know, the first time I set foot in New York or in Brooklyn or New York, it was in the middle of winter. In March, right? Middle of March, middle of winter, snow on the ground. So even visually, what I in Esiakwa or Kufuridia, there's no frame of reference to snow.
No.
The word snow I had never heard. And you step outside and your foot touches that ground and instantly you feel a shock, like somebody has thrown you into a refrigerator. Even your whole mindset changes. You know that you are in a whole different
You know, the
world,
funny thing, remember when we were young, there was this song, I don't even know the words. It was snow falling, snow, snow.
And I have a now that I've come back, actually, that song is amazing you bring that up. We were in Esiakwa and we were learning Christmas song about snow. That alone tells you that we had given up our own identity, even within our own environment.
That's the point I was going to make. Because this guy who said, he brought it out, he said, we are children, they ask us to think about snow. We have no clue what it is.
They are talking about bleak midwinter in the middle of Esiakwa. And we were singing those songs, not even referencing that it does exist somewhere else. Our whole mentality was kind of European based, even the education system, and in many cases still is European based. And I think we need to change that. I think how we will advance our country or our continent is really to come back to our Afrocentric core, and then based on that,
there's a picture that someone sent around the platform, and picking back on building our own. Okay, someone had a photograph of Asante Kotoko. Right. And while one of these platforms, while everybody was talking about, oh, this is Abdul Razak, this is I had no interest. I looked at the stands, and the stands were full. I mean, the whole stadium was packed. Now, when Kotoko plays a game, you'd be lucky to get 100 people there. Why? Because we've given up Kotoko and Haas, and everybody is on Chelsea and Man. Where did we go wrong?
You know, I think it's our own, it may be our own, the brainwash from colonialism is still with us, you know. I think everything African for so long was made to be inferior, and everything European, from our skin color to the food we ate to the clothing we wore, it's quite deep. You know, 300 years of slavery and counting. It is very hard to come back from that and recenter yourself to say, I am African and I'm proud of it. In America in the 70s, black people kind of went through that whole reviving black power and fight the power
Yeah.
and all that.
Yeah.
And it worked. And I think that it's Africa's
need to
time now.
revisit it, yes.
Exactly.
Okay.
And people like me who have lived abroad and forgot about Ghana, it's time to come back
and reclaim our own.
Reclaim your
In
own.
fact, talking about what you're saying, the brainwashing thing, we men, you hear guys talking, oh, I've met this girl, she's so fine, she's fair colored.
Exactly.
The whole idea is fair colored is better, dark is inferior.
Even our songs,
Yes.
even the high life songs, right? There's always a line in high life songs that says Obibini Bruni. You understand?
Yes.
Because if you don't elevate that Obibini girl to a Bruni, it should be Obibini.
That's it.
Obibini Tuntum. That's what it should be. But even in our songs, we are still.
We say black is beautiful, but we don't
practice it.
We don't practice it.
And so it's time we did that.
We do that. Okay, so now tell me a little bit of what you learned growing up in high school, obviously being a doctor.
Yes.
You went to college and did the first, second, third degree. What did you learn that you think that Ghana can benefit?
Right.
From?
You learn a whole host of things.
Okay.
Yeah. First, I said when I step foot there, even the language is different. You become more versatile. Yeah.
Okay.
You learn how to manage your time. You learn how to focus on what's important and leave what is not. Of course, I learned management skills throughout your schooling. You are learning to be a professional, but at the same time, you are also learning to be the manager of your own life, but also to even manage a practice, a private practice. So I learned so many things besides just being a professional doctor. So for example, I ran my own clinic, my own private office. In order to do that, though you are not an MBA management trained, in order to run a company, you will have to learn what works in the American system, what is the client looking for, what will work, what won't work, how do you raise funds. You learn all those things, not necessarily in a classroom, but really from living and from learning through your own experiences and seeing what works. So besides my education, I think that place, meaning America, it really teaches you how to interact with your own environment, how to survive in your own environment, and really how to use what you learn to kind of better your
So you run your own practice in New York?
Yeah, in Atlanta.
In Atlanta?
Yes, exactly.
Oh, so you left New York to come
live
in
actually,
Atlanta?
I moved out of New York. I don't like the cold. I don't think I ever got over that first shock.
So you came
you
came from New York.
Yes,
in fact, you came from New York to Aburokyire proper.
Exactly.
Because I've had people come from New York to Texas and they go, hey,
precisely. Atlanta,
did you get that feeling?
Yeah, exactly.
That's okay.
I agree.
So what was it like running your practice in Atlanta?
Right.
What kind of medicine? Is it internal or?
My specialty is eyes. So
eyes,
I'm an eye doctor. So I do see patients. I'm an optometrist by training, so that's my official title. In the US, it's quite easy to go into private practice in the field of optometry specifically. When you go to the US, most people who wear glasses, contacts, or even if your eyes are hurting red, you don't really go into a hospital. You go into lens crafters, vision works, those type of places. You go into those places, and they've managed to turn that into a retail business. So it's really a straightforward thing. You come from your education, and you open up a practice, and you practice, and then you are in business.
Very good.
And there's also it's very supportive in the sense that, you know, if a professional wants to get loans from banks and things like that, it's quite easy to do it in America compared to maybe in Ghana here. So that helped.
And so we're gonna go on a break. Picking back on the just a bit of information. In America, federal, state, and local level of government employs only 16% of anyone who draws a paycheck formally. If we can turn that percentage like that here in Ghana and expand the private sector, we'll be the better off. We're going on a quick break. When we come back, we'll bring Dr. Agnes Adu back home to Ghana. Stay tuned.
Are you expecting money from your relations abroad? Have you ever been defrauded of your money remittance? Open an ADB account today. Send your name and your account number to your relations abroad. Ask them to use MoneyGram direct to account service and receive your money in your account in minutes. With MoneyGram direct to account service, there's no PIN code wahala. You can now access your money on all ATMs in Ghana or send it to any mobile money wallet using ADB mobile banking app or shortcode *767#. Visit our branches nationwide to conveniently receive your Western Union, MoneyGram, RIA, Unitylink, Transfast, and Express Money transfers. Reach us on our Facebook, website, or call our hotline on 0302 210 210 for more information. ADB, truly agri and more.
Okay, welcome back. This is Diaspora Weekly, and you're with me here, Jermaine Nkrumah, with Dr. Agnes Adu. We're talking about life in the States, transitioned from New York. I actually grew up in New York, not just New York, Brooklyn.
Yes.
And then we come all the way down south to Atlanta as a professional optometrist. Yes. All right, and so you've lived there for a while. And then you decide to come to Ghana. Mm-hmm. Why?
The why is quite simple. I was one of those people. I went to America at quite a young age. So in a sense, I had forgotten Ghana, right? I have my practice. I'm doing well. I'm able to afford living. But the Ghana never left us, and I'll give the credit to my parents. Basically, my mom, it was instrumental, because even the way we lived, although we are in Brooklyn, in the home we spoke Chi, so we never forgot Ghana. But lately, maybe the last, let's say 5, 6, 7 years, I realized that living in America, there's a ceiling that you hit, right, and then you can't go any further. You know, being black, being woman, being African, being a foreigner, all those stripes work against you. So you get to a point where you realize, what's the next step, right? I came to that conclusion saying that the next step should be me going back to Ghana to see what I can do there. So I started exploring, first to come and find something meaningful to do. So I came back and I volunteered to teach at the University of Cape Coast. Okay. I did that for 1 semester where I taught optometry, just like I'm a trained optometrist. And that kind of kept my interest going. Okay. But I met a slew of people, a group of people in Atlanta who were very active, some in the political scene, some in the private sector, who also encouraged me to look into Ghana and what the possibilities are here that I can tap into. Okay, and that's what brought me back.
So when you drive in cantonments around the American embassy, you see people queue for American visa, and even some of us have said it. Say, if I ever get a chance to go to America, that Ghana, I'll forget it. I'll never come back again. Yeah. Is that a lie?
No, that's not a lie. I think everybody's perspective is different. But for me, I went through that mentality, right? Though immigration is a fact of life. Americans live here, Europeans live in Ghana, and Ghanaians will travel. Travel is not something that is necessary, but it's something that we do. We move around the world. Ghanaians should move around the world. We should go and learn things and bring it back. So some immigration is necessary. But I can relate to what that guy in the queue is thinking. Though I left here at quite a young age, I still have memories of what a village life is and what possibilities are for women in Africa. I'm quite painfully aware of that. So I went through, let's say, a 15-year span between when I graduated as a professional and now, where I decided Ghana is not for me. I have nothing there. I don't have friends there. My family lives in Brooklyn. You can get to a point where Africa or Ghana, it doesn't look attractive. And you have to admit that before you can even go to the next step as to how I can change it to make it better. So I can understand the mentality of that guy standing in line looking for greener pastures. I think there's nothing wrong with that. The key is what you do after you go and what you learn. How does it benefit the people in Ghana?
That transition is what I'm trying to understand, because for me, I left when Rawlings did his second coup, 1981.
I see.
And unlike the Kotoka JFK thing, I had to go through 5 different countries to get to the United States. But you see, at the time that I was leaving here, I was so pissed off at Rawlings to start with, and then Ghana. And my mentality was, man, if I get to my final destination, I'm not coming back. But invariably, once you get there, like you said, you get to a certain point, you say, you know what am I doing here?
Precisely.
Especially when you look back. Exactly. When you look back and you see that somebody sat on your seat and said, Ghana needs me. Did you ever feel that?
You know, I growing up, I never felt that. But I can share with you the moment I felt it dawned on me. It's the moment I met the current president, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo. I met him at a fundraiser going into 2012 elections. And he was speaking to a group of professionals, and for the first time he laid out how we are wasting our talents, so to speak, bettering somebody else's country. And we have left our own to rot, basically. I sat through that speech and I felt like, you know what, that's me. He's talking to me, exactly. Room full of people, mostly professionals, meeting a potential presidential candidate. And that speech kind of touched something inside me. And I said, you know what, he is right.
So that was a turning point.
It was the turning point. And this was somewhere going into 2012. Exactly. And that was my turning point.
And so since that time, what was your, did you start preparing right away to come?
Absolutely. I decided, you know, when I was speaking earlier, I said that I wanted to come back to Ghana and find something meaningful to do. That speech touched something inside of me, and I said, okay, what it is that I do best, and I can teach it or I can impact it on somebody else. So I went with something that I know, optometry. So within a year, I did my research as to if I want to come and do a visiting lecture, what do I need to go through? And I took those steps, and within a year, within 12 months of hearing him speak, I actually taught my first class at
within 12 months.
Within 12
That's
months.
Credit to... I mean, he's a president now, and
it's
you know, when you say nice things about him, people think, oh, you're trying to brown nose. But these are the things that, when you can light a fire in somebody.
I agree.
You know.
I
so
agree.
now you pack up and you're coming and you're an optometrist.
Yes.
But you end up at a trade fair center.
Precisely.
Okay, now I've got to know I've got to know, because no two things are wider apart.
You are right.
But
on the surface.
On the surface.
Right, exactly.
But it's all about managing.
Absolutely.
So bring us back to trade fair.
Right.
What's when tell us you got the appointment.
Yes.
And then what next?
Yes. You know, let me go back a little bit. You know, being a doctor, right? Yes, you are the healer. You know your job. But even when you come up on a patient, right, your management skill needs to kick in. What are your priorities, right? Not everything about the patient in front of you that you need to deal with, right? What is the reason why the patient is there? So let me give you an example. You come up on a scene and somebody's bleeding from the eye. That's my specialty. Do I need to worry about their breakfast? No, because at that point, my duty is to stop the bleeding. So even your managerial skills, how you prioritize, what do you put before what? How do you move from point A to point B, keeping your core mandate, meaning your patient, in sight and making sure that they get to the next level. So even at that level, you have to learn and perfect how you manage your environment. But for me, I tell people that I'm multifaceted. You know, sometimes when you are a doctor, people want to box you into that field. But living in America, I ran my own businesses. I am CEO of my own company, meaning my private practice. Not only that, I even ventured out into other forms of businesses. I had a retail chain of stores in Atlanta at some point. So my doctor, yes, I'm a doctor and I love being a doctor. But even more so, my businesses and things, I am always CEO of my own businesses.
So I started out by saying optometry and trade fair wide apart. But I think you brought me closer.
Precisely.
Now bring it very, very cool. What have you learned through your business dealings that you're now applying at the trade fair?
Every aspect. You know, trade fair is a business, right? Every business, those that I've ran in the past and trade fair are no different. Every business has a product. First, you need to identify what your product is. Every business needs to manage its revenue. First, you need to know where your revenue sources are, where you go after. Every business also needs to grow. How do you grow? Who do you partner with? Where do you find your funding? All those things, if you even manage one business, you will know that those things are the essential things that you need to bring together in order to make your business flourish. So when I took over the seat of Ghana Trade Fair Company Limited, I mean, I have to say, I was in shock almost as to how that company, a government-owned company, has been run down and rotted. And when I say rotted, I mean physical
I've seen
rot.
it. The physical structures are a mess.
Not to mention the fiscal rot.
Oh my goodness.
The
physical and fiscal.
Exactly. Both had been left to rot. The trade fair company was in a hole. The revenue was not coming, and the small little revenue that came was mismanaged. Not only that, the grounds have been torn to shreds. Rotted, I mean reptiles, you name it.
Really?
I'm telling you.
You saw snakes there?
Let me tell you.
I would not have gone back.
Let me tell you, my first meeting with the outgoing NDC or previous government appointee, he ran that company for 8 years. And I took the keys from him, not with nothing much else, negative coffers. And his parting words to me was that I should be careful on the ground because there are snakes on the ground. That was the outgoing CEO. His parting words to me.
And he didn't do anything about it.
He sat there for 8 years. The coffers were empty. There was nothing. I mean, there are small businesses who rent space from trade fair, and that's when I talk about revenue. That is your product. That's the main revenue coming into
from those
small kiosks. Our mandate as Trade Fair Company Limited is to put on international trade shows and help the promotion of trade and industry, and I'll come back to that. But the revenue that you run on, every tenant on the ground owed trade fair 40,000, 60,000. The electricity had been cut off to the ground. It was a daunting task. But I went back to the president who appointed me, and he says, well, you built your business in America, so go and turn that thing around and stop your crying. So I didn't get any sympathies.
No sympathy?
No.
You sound like my dad. If you go to my dad for sympathy, you're wasting your time. There. So we're going to go on a quick break, but all I need to know is, when it came up here, I was planning to come visit your office, but I'll wait until you let me know the snakes are gone.
They are gone now.
Before we'll be back. Stay tuned. This is Diaspora Weekly.
Hello, this is Nanansa, and you're watching Homeland: The Story of the Returnee, where we dive into the perspective of the diaspora in and out of Ghana. It's fun, engaging, and motivational.
I think Ghana is is a wonderful place. I love Ghana. I truly do.
We need our diasporans for our country to develop to where it should be.
Hey! Come on, turn around. Turn around, let me see.
Make a date with me right here on DNT every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Homeland. Brain drain, brain gain.
Welcome back. This is Diaspora Weekly. My name is Jermaine Nkrumah, here with Dr. Agnes Adu, CEO of Ghana Trade Fair Company Limited. So, now the snakes are gone.
Yes.
All right.
First order of business.
First order of business, snakes are gone.
Precisely.
And you're on an uptick.
Yes, very much so.
It. What's going on?
You know, I'm quite excited. I'm very excited the last 2 years, what we've gone from that dilapidated structures there, how we've even transformed it to even improve our revenue sources. We have doubled or tripled revenue in the last 24 months.
Okay.
Now that what I'm excited about the most is where we are taking Trade Fair in the next 3 to 5 years.
Okay.
So we've put together a competent project management team the day I took the seat and started planning the next 3 to 5 years. What do we want Trade Fair to become? We want Trade Fair to become a multi-purpose, trade-centered facility. So we are rebuilding and redeveloping the entire site. The site was built in 1967, and nothing meaningful has been done to the site since. Okay. So we are going to basically level 90% of all those small broken structures and then rebuild it back into international standard.
Okay.
You know, this government's agenda is to industrialize Ghana. A key part of industrialization is trade promotion, trade facilitation. Yeah. You cannot do without it. It's a key part of that chain. The 1D1F, for example, is flourishing. Companies are coming up, factories are opening. Now you have this flourishing industry. How do you link it to your global partners? Okay. When you travel, we all go to conventions. We go to Shanghai and we go to the convention there. We go to New York, we go to the convention there. That's what Ghana is lacking. How we can be the center for government or even private sector to have a place where we showcase what Ghana is made of.
So this is not a mall?
Absolutely not.
Okay, what's the difference for we lay people?
Right.
Trade fair, we go there to trade, buy this. What's the difference?
You know, the core mandate is trade promotion and trade facilitation. What that means is that Trade Fair's mandate is to make sure that we put on international trade exhibitions for local producers, exactly, to come and exhibit their goods and services. We invite the international, regional, everybody to come into Ghana and partner with us. I'm going to tell you a success story that I feel signifies what Trade Fair does. Okay. Yesterday, somebody sent me a video of a young 18-year-old girl who is part of this 1D1F, has gone and set up a production business, taking grains, millet, corn, things like that, and turning it into breakfast cereal. This girl is 18 years old. And so he came...
Is she part of those? Because the president is doing some young entrepreneurs.
Precisely.
What do they call it? Presidential pitch?
Yes, presidential pitch.
Interesting.
Now, that woman, that young woman, she tells a story about how last year, the trade exhibition show that I took the seat, my first trade exhibition show. She said she came to that trade fair. She heard about coming to trade fair. She brought her mother who was selling shea butter. And she said that when she got there, the patronage for shea butter alone, the sales that she made in 10 days was more than she was making in a whole 6 months. Or in a whole 1 year, just from 10 days of exhibition.
Look at that.
She said, based on that, she leaped forward and said, well, why stop at shea butter? Let's go see other products that we can put together. That's what the core mandate is, to help that small young entrepreneur get that light bulb off his head and say, what's the next step? Come to trade fair, meet with the Business Development Ministry, partnered up, and now she's setting up 2 factories in the north and turning grains into adding value to our product.
That's an amazing story.
Absolutely. And when I heard that story, it was heartwarming, but it also told me that there's a need for us to bring this facility into international standard and then attract those international companies who otherwise won't come to a facility that is so broken down.
So if I hear you correctly, if you do a trade exhibition, it would be pointless for somebody to go to China and bring mobile phone and come and exhibit it there. You won't allow it, I presume.
We can do some international trade shows as well, because we want that China or wherever, that manufacturer, we want him to also find a local partner as a distributor. We also connect businesses like that. So it depends on our focus. But international fairs is really Ghana focus. How we can help that small entrepreneur take your idea to the next level, meet financing partners, meet your local partners, meet international partners, and make your business grow. And that's our core mandate.
How's that different from the Ghana export promotion?
The Ghana export promotion is actually the next level.
Okay.
Exactly.
After you've established your partnership.
Precisely. After you come to the trade show to exhibit your wares, now you found the China partner. How do you export in quantities to them? Then GEPA or the Ghana Export Promotion, they take over from there and also go forward.
So in terms of percentages, if you were to put a number to it off the top of your head, during a typical trade exhibition, what percentage of goods would be Ghana made and what percentage would be foreign made?
Right now, I don't think we are even at 50-50. Meaning that in an international show, you find 50% international traders and then 50% local traders. I think that the ratio should be a little bit higher than that. If I'm putting on international trade fair to benefit Ghanaians, I want mostly Ghanaian companies exhibiting, right? But I also, it's pointless to have only Ghanaian companies exhibiting, because then you go home and don't get that international exposure. But I think maybe even 60-70% should be Ghanaian, and then the 30% should be international partners or even regional partners.
Okay, I was coming to that because now we have the ECOWAS market.
Precisely.
And we have the African Continental Free Trade Area. We are going to host that. How is that going to play into your... that should be icing on the cake for you.
Absolutely. It is key because, you know, now the EU has been in existence for how many years now? These guys are trading among themselves and then trading as a trading bloc to outsiders. The same idea with the African Continental Free Trade, the same idea. When this thing takes off, it's going to be bigger than that single market in EU. It's going to be bigger than that.
We're what, 1.3 million
precisely.
in Africa.
Imagine that many people, that many countries trading among themselves, freely moving about. Ghana needs to, and then Ghana is going to be the headquarters of it. We will position ourselves where the International Trade Fair Center become the hub, the trading hub, the preferred destination for all these activities, anywhere from conventions to local exhibitions to international exhibitions. You need to have an international center, somewhere that somebody will be proud to say, I'm going there to do exhibitions. When you go to New York, people flock to Javits Center. You go to Chicago, people flock to the McCormick Center. Why? Because the facility is clean, it's modern, the amenities are there, the infrastructure is there, and that's how cities grow. I'll give you I'll give you another example. Rwanda put an exhibition, mixed use, kind of similar to the model that we're using. No, not even 5 years, right? In one single year, through exhibitions alone, people that came to conferences, exhibitions, they estimated that about 40,000 human beings, people, flocked to Rwanda on conventions and exhibitions and trading. Out of the 40,000, on average, people spend about $2,000. They
Look at
fly
the
in,
maths.
precisely. They fly in, they eat there, they sleep in the hotels, this and that and the other. So if you do even some simple math, in 1 year, just on convention alone, put in that convention center, Rwanda raked in almost $100 million, US dollars.
Yeah.
And that's just on conventions, you
Yeah.
understand? And meeting and those type of conferences. We are a little behind, and I think it's because we don't have facilities to support it.
That's
So,
another thing. When you hear Rwanda ahead of us in Ivory Coast, Senegal ahead of us in voting, what have we done in Ghana? Didn't we used to lead the continent?
we do.
What happened?
And in some ways, we still do in many cases. I mean, it's as simple as we dropped the ball. You know, the last decade, you know, let's say from 2008 to 2018 or 2006 to 2016, nothing meaningful has been done in terms of policy. How do you drive the economy? What are the essentials that you need to put in place before your economy has thrived? We just kind of stopped everything. We stopped thinking. And now, you know, now we are back to wanting to industrialize Ghana. Even that policy to industrialize Ghana alone, you have to think through it. You know, we are back to focusing our energies and harnessing education. I mean, high school education for the last 10 years had been abandoned. And if you don't, you know, in developed places, K through 12 is mandatory and paid for by the government. So you have educated masses, you can develop your country.
What trade, in fact, the last time I went to the Trade Fair Center, I thought it was a forgotten edifice.
And it was.
It's good to know that you're reviving it.
Absolutely.
Now, since you took over your current position, I'm sure you visited other trade fairs.
Absolutely.
Tell us the ones that have caught your attention.
Even before I took the seat, you know, I am, even in my field, you know, we go to conventions all over the place. I mean, within Ghana. The ones in the U.S. attract, of course, I lived there for so many years. I've seen the ones from Los Angeles. I've seen the ones in Chicago. I've seen the one in New York, Houston, for example. Every city worth being called the city has a convention and exhibition center. It's how the city actually makes money. When you bring, let's say, 3,000 people to a pharmacy convention, where do you think they sleep? They sleep in the local hotels. So as part of the development, a hotel is part of it on the ground. They go shopping, where they can even go across the street and eat at the restaurant there, and that restaurant owner benefits from it. So we are creating shopping spaces, amusement spaces, hotel spaces, and we are partnering with the private sector. You said what went wrong. One of the things I think is key that held Ghana back, or is still holding us back, is that we always run to government. Right? Government should write $2 billion to go build trade and exhibition center. Nowhere do I know in this world, except Rwanda. I think the government actually wrote that check, but it's a semi-democracy.
But their situation is different.
It's different. Yeah. But Chicago, for example, the McCormick Center, the federal government did not build that. The hotel is a Hilton. The convention center is privately run. The restaurants are not owned by government.
And
that's how we are doing this.
That is the thing that you see, Ghanaians' mindset is our limitation.
It's government
because
driven.
Look, everything government this, everything government. Let me tell you, if you get to a place where the private sector is actually thriving, nobody cares who's president.
In your opening statement, you said something at the Jungle. You said something about how corruption and
it's endemic in our system.
It's endemic in our system because we always blame it. We have one source to blame it, and we don't take our rightful responsibility that you own. But the private sector runs developed countries. It's not government. And you said the same thing in your intro.
Let me tell you,
it's not the government.
If you have a government now, this
government
is where I
is
sound
a facilitator. Yes,
First,
exactly.
You see, and Nana Akufo-Addo hasn't paid me anything to say this, but I'm saying this because I believe in it. You have a government, a president who came in, who can appoint his own DC. He said, no, I want to give that power away
to the people.
You have a leader who says, no, the government takes on too much. I want to develop the private sector so that if I don't have to pay you, if I don't have any control over you, you can curse me out, you can say anything, and I don't have, you see what I'm saying? But in Ghana, everything we look at the government.
It's too government-centered.
But then we don't understand that the private sector is really what's going to take us to the next level.
You said it in your intro.
You raise your money in the private sector.
Absolutely. You said it in your intro. If the private sector in Africa only has like 10% or 20% development involvement, and everything
every big contract comes from a government.
From the government,
everything from the government.
You know, this project to develop trade fair, Trade Fair Company Limited with its board of directors, we haven't gone to government. Not even one single.
Wow.
We have not gone to government.
You haven't read a red sending.
We haven't gone to government.
We'll talk about that. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about the trade fair and where it's headed now. Stay tuned, please.
Hello. My name is Kofi Opon Ochre, and I bring you NASA on DNT, a program designed to expose corruption and indiscipline in our society and advocate for the punishment of these offenders whose activities impede national development. The National Road Safety Commission indicates that Ghana loses $230 million to road accident, with over 1,600 deaths recorded every year. In 2018, Shraj report indicated that Ghana loses 13.5 billion Ghana cedis to corruption. And United Nations Children's Fund UNICEF has also stated that Ghana loses $290 million to poor sanitation alone. This is not right. So make a date with me, and together let's name and shame the offenders of the law. NASA, see something, say something.
Welcome back to Diaspora Weekly. My name is Jermaine Nkrumah. I'm glad to have Dr. Agnes Adu, CEO of Ghana Trade Fair Company, with me. Before we went, you were talking about raising the money in the private sector.
Yes.
In an era where everybody looks at the government, why did you look at the private sector?
I feel it's the only viable way of doing a project that size.
Okay.
The site stretches over 140 acres.
Yeah.
The government cannot write a check to go develop that entire site. You know, the site is prime. It's government land acquired by an executive instrument in 1967. Government owns the land.
Yeah.
We can leverage on that land. It's situated by the beach. It's in the middle of Accra, 10 minutes from the airport. It's high real estate land that the private sector is interested in to come in and partner with you, and then grow with it. So we don't intend for government to sink money into a project like this.
But then it can generate money for the government.
Absolutely. Yeah. Even the potential of partnering with the private sector to develop that prime location. Yeah. Tax revenue alone that a hotel will bring in, the convention center will bring in, the shopping space, that alone can generate income.
You know, that's a very interesting perspective with which to go into a project.
Precisely.
Because if there's one thing I've noticed here in Ghana, everything that belongs to the government belongs to nobody.
Exactly, and it's run down. Exactly, everything that belongs to...
If you went there, raise the money from the private sector, they gave you money, you sign a contract, we're giving you this is the interest you have to pay by this.
Exactly.
You're not going to run it.
You're not going to run it down. And also, we don't even want government to run a hotel. Government should not be in the business of running business. Yeah. Government should bring you the infrastructure. You should drive on the road. You should have electricity, the policy and the thinking. But if Trade Fair wants to develop a multi-purpose, Hilton Hotel, for example, Marriott Hotel, for example, we can get into an agreement with them. Yeah. We put in what we have, which is land. They come in, they build a Marriott hotel and run it. And we own Marriott and we don't run it.
That's right.
You don't lift a finger and you've already part of a a multi-billion-dollar hotel industry.
This conversation,
it's a no-brainer.
This conversation has gone on so well that we've eaten into the part where we talk to our brothers and sisters whom we left back in the state abroad. What do you have to say to them? Well, because some of them are still, should I go, should I not?
Absolutely. My own family, my brothers and sisters, my older sister and my younger brothers, they are still struggling whether they can come back home or not. I think that it's not a race. You are not in competition with anyone. Your only competition is yourself. Right. Do it when the time is right. I think the advice that I'll give people is that you must start. Yeah, the talking, sometimes we do a lot of it, but you must start. Find something meaningful to come to Ghana to pursue, even if it's just vacation. Maybe you haven't come in some years now. You haven't come in 5 years. Take a 10-day vacation, which is exactly what I did at first. Took a 10-day vacation. And I said, I'm going to go back home and see what's available. You know, look up your friends. Have dinner with someone. Pick their brain on what they're doing. Call the trade fair. Come and have a meeting. What can you do to help either the government or in the private sector? There is always something that will touch your core that you can use to grow. But start. Yeah.
And the interesting thing is this. And this is my personal experience. Did you find that when you're coming, you come here with a plan, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and then you get here, and reality tweaks that plan?
Oh, not even tweaks the plan. I mean, I was coming here saying, fine, I have this appointment, I know what I want to do, I've gone to all the convention centers around the U.S., and I'm going to tour more when I get there. I have this book of a plan. Then you get there and the outgoing CEO say, be careful, there's snakes on the ground. You need to throw that book away and go kill some snakes. You understand? Yeah. So yes, when you get here, you have to kill some snakes. I mean, it's par for the course. When you get here, your plans will be turned upside down 2 times. But you have to evolve. You can't box yourself into, when I go and it doesn't work, I'm coming back. No, you need to say, okay, what did I learn from that failure? And how do I not repeat getting bitten by a snake? It's just as simple as that.
You know, it's amazing that we get on a plane. I mean, you went to your dad.
Precisely.
Some of us who went to hustle.
Yes. You guys are tougher than we did.
You get there. And you land and you have $20 in your pocket.
That's right.
And you don't have any idea where you're going to sleep that night.
Precisely.
If you are able to take that chance
to
go there
and survive,
why can't you take that chance coming back? This time you have much more money.
Precisely.
You have this is your home.
Exactly. And you have a fallback. If it doesn't work, you can go back. Exactly.
And so, finally, what has been the ups and downs? Let's start with the downs. What's been your biggest frustration?
In Ghana?
In your current environment?
In my current environment. My biggest frustration has really been our attitude towards work, professionalism.
Okay.
Yeah. When I first got here, I thought I was in slow motion. You know, I felt like no one is in a hurry to do anything about anything.
But when they're driving, they're in a hurry.
Except when they're on a motorbike.
That's what I don't understand. When they're driving, they're in a hurry. They don't want to wait on the light. But then when they get to the office,
it's like hurry up to go wait. And that one.
Wait. Say that again.
It's like hurry up to go wait. Exactly.
Got
that was a big frustration for me.
Wow.
But my frustrations about Ghana is everybody's frustration. The way we drive, the way we throw trash out, the way, you know, our vision is not anything into the future. It's like right here, it stops right here. So I've been very frustrated
about that. So we're myopic as a people.
Very myopic, and that's my field. Very myopic as a people. And I think the more I interact with the environment, the more I get used to it. But that can also backfire. You don't want to get too used to it where you start to accept it. That's where I think diasporans come in. When you come into the country first, you fight it. You don't want to accept the open gutters because it's not the right way to live. So we tend to be forceful and we tend to do more to advance the development of our country. When you've lived here for too long, you start to kind of accept it. Exactly. So it'll take diasporans, both diasporans and locals, to come together, but more so diasporans. I think.
Well,
I think
so
we have
what's
more
been the
to
highlights?
Well, the highlight is that I also, as frustrated as I am, what I find good about Ghana is our outlook in life, the stress-free nature of Ghanaians, right? I am a creature of habit. I get up, I go to work 9 hours, 10 hours, I'm in there, slaving away, you come home. Yes, America work, but America is very stressful. I mean, there's bills everywhere you go. There's this, and you tend to not have leisure.
No,
exactly.
No. I remember times when I have to leave a party that's jamming.
Exactly, because you have to go and
I have
you
to
have
leave
a
this party to go to work.
I like the Ghanaian disposition. I always tell my friends, I don't think war can ever break out in Ghana.
No,
why? Because we have no interest in cutting my brother. And everything is God will provide, and it shall be well. And I think I have learned or relearned to be Ghanaian in that terms. And I think it
so
has
tell
helped
me, a layman, what I need to look for. Starting with your website. What's the website of the trade fair?
Okay, so the Ghana Trade Fair Company is www.tradefairgh.com. So tradefairgh like Ghana.com. And you can find a lot of information there, all our numbers to call, all the events that are coming up, future events, past events, pictures, they are all there. Right now we have switched our focus primarily to the redevelopment of the site, the physical rebuilding of the site. So a lot of information is on the website. You can always come to my office. My office is open all the time.
No snakes?
No snakes. And I've remodeled what needs to be remodeled and temporarily can work. The place is functioning. The last trade fair that we had, the first trade fair I actually put on after putting the seat, I planned it in about 5 months, was the 2018, the 22nd edition of the trade fair. And about 600 companies, both local and international, came on the trade fair grounds, and we were able to host them, even in the messed up, dilapidated structure. So can you imagine, in 5-6 years, when we've actually turned it into a modern facility? I am quite excited about what is to come for the trade fair.
Dr. Agnes Adu, thank you for being my guest, and thank you for what you're doing for Ghana and the trade fair. You've been watching Diaspora Weekly. Go by the trade fair. I did not know much about trade fair and what it represents, but I think now we're a bit more educated what it stands for. That is the place that if you're manufacturer, if you're producing Ghana-made stuff, that is where you would take your wares or your products to go meet potential exporters. And so it was run down, but now it's on its way back. And we thank Dr. Agnes Adu for that. You've been watching Diaspora Weekly. My name is Jermaine Nkrumah.
Highly spiritual. You must believe in the African dream. Do invest in the Ghanaian dream. My people don't believe the lie. Our arms are open wide. This land is green, away, green on this side.